There's nothing that is inherently unspiritual to do. There's nothing that inherently means you can't access your higher self. What I mean is that in theory, you can take drugs, be with prostitutes, sleep around, be somewhat rude to people, go to parties, or become a multimillionaire. There's no degeneracy that makes you unspiritual or not be able to access your higher self. There's no hierarchy of good and evil, spiritual and non-spiritual, in some ultimate sense. The process of discovering your highest self is about discovering what is it that you really want to do in this life. And there's no judging you for whatever you want to do. The only thing that can judge you and keep you from doing what you want is yourself. Now, there is an important caveat. For most people, sleeping around with hookers and taking drugs and going to parties does not come from the liberated self that just does what it truly wants to do. It usually comes from an unsatisfied ego. The ego that needs to feel pleasure in order to feel okay. That needs pleasure in order to forget how it doesn't love itself enough, how it dislikes reality and the society in it, and that wants to all of this to go away. So it then loses itself in pleasure. That self needs to feel like it is seen through obsessive socialization to feel real and valuable and get a sense of importance from other people. It's the self that can't stop thinking about pleasure and hedonism as the only thing worth living for. If you're not content in your life, it's certainly the case that wanting pleasure isn't a choice for you. It's not something you just do to enjoy yourself. It's what you do to make life bearable. You have vices that slowly destroy you, and for very few people who engage in these hedonistic activities, this isn't the case. And that's why almost all religions require some form of abstinence of lust, greed, and any other vices. But there's a belief here where you can think that you shouldn't enjoy pleasures because it's not possible to not be consumed by them. But that is not correct. You can completely enjoy all of these things, where your authentic self naturally does what it feels good to you, but also nurtures you, where you can do what you want without feeling guilty or ashamed about it. A mind that is free does what it enjoys naturally, without any self-judgment. And there's a serious tension between all desires are ego and the hedonistic indulgence of just follow your desires and do whatever you want. This conflict needs to be resolved for you to find your authentic self without destroying your life in the process. I smoked my first joint at the age of 14, and I became addicted to weed at the age of 17 or so. I loved smoking, and it became more and more over time. I wouldn't have described myself as addicted back then, but looking back, this is where it all really started. And what is really weird is that I started to like the addiction in a way. I told myself I wanted to smoke less, and instead smoked more just to feel this internal struggle. I enjoyed the self-sabotage because it made me feel I was building a narrative against myself or a narrative against life. Like the poor deep soul lost in a cruel world, having to smoke to stay okay with life. I romanticized the struggle like a cosmic battle against myself. That's the problem with fighting a behavior. The mind finds a way to make enemies against itself just so it has something to fight against, so it can build a narrative about something. And this fight makes the behavior even more appealing. The torture of the hedonistic treadmill, meaning this sensation of chasing pleasure again just to, be okay, is that no experience is ever enough. I was looking for the most high state I could possibly be in, like chasing some raw, pure intensity of, pleasure. I needed to explore consciousness in its most extreme states. I remember with a friend, we had taken some magic truffles and then chain smoked large blunts, one after the other, like ripping them as if they were water pipes. If you've never done substances in combination before, smoking weed on psychedelics is like it multiplies the trip. It really works together to make you feel like you've taken way more psychedelics than you actually have. I almost knocked myself out by how surreal and intense everything was. I remember being at the absolute peak, absolutely spaced out in a way that felt truly unhuman, so ridiculously high and barely able to move my body, and then rolling another blunt to smoke more. And it was not even that I thought about it as some choice I was making, I just did it. There was this need for intensity, this need to experience extreme states of consciousness. And this need was real. And as easy as it is to demonize it, it was also a very nice time. And I would not want to miss it now. I had to take a 1 year weed break, which I made a video about, 2 years back, that you can see here. Like I'm showing up a link on the screen. I think it's on the top right. This 1 year break changed my relationship to the drug, and a lot on how I actually enjoy pleasure changed throughout this time. So now again, I've been through a new sober phase. I've been sober for the last 6 months again, just because I wanted to be. But I still have my affinity for intense states, and I still love weed and psychedelics. This fun of consuming these substances hasn't changed. There's just not this need anymore, or this obsession over having to be in these states. And the reason my relationship is so different to these states now is for 3 reasons. First, it's that I was able to live without it for a while. So this is the point of abstinence that all of these religions preach. It's like a sort of long-term detachment from a state of consciousness, like a long-state detachment from the substance was definitely necessary to kind of get over it, to see that I don't need it. It's like when you break up with your ex, but keep contact every week. It just doesn't work. The pain of the breakup is just too hard to really process if you react with engaging in whatever is causing the emotion in the first place. In the same vein, I needed to be completely drug-free for a while. And the second reason is the egoic reasons I used to have when I smoke just doesn't exist anymore. That sense of searching for purpose and feeling some sort of cosmic meaning through the drug, and fantasizing about my life and existence in some hero's journey type way. This internal battle to overcome is just not a narrative I have anymore. And the third and very important reason that lead us into the next chapter is the idea of burning karma. Through all my hedonistic desires, there was authentic desire in there too. An authentic will for these experiences that, as deranged as they might have looked from the outside, felt for me at the time important to explore. Beyond weed, this desire for pleasure was always present, always this low-level agitation to play some video game or engage in something else very stimulating. But I also know now that it was necessary. There exists this concept in Buddhism called burning karma, which means that before you can go to the next stage of your life, you must burn off the desires you hold until they have burned themselves out. So if there's a desire for you to go to parties or sleep around, then it's likely, if you feel compelled this way, that you'll do this until you're tired of it, meaning that a part of your soul wants to know what it's like to experience these things. And it will not stop until it knows all it wants to know about it. There's no need to judge yourself for what you want or suppress what you want. If there's something you really want and suppress it, it makes the pull towards the experience even stronger and makes it so that the experience is less satisfying because you always put a veil of guilt on top the experience as if it was something evil that you did. What you want to do is simply act with awareness towards what you engage with, being present to what is really driving you. And this presence only works if there's no guilt trying to distract you from how it is actually like to experience these things. And this also is my warning to you, because as much as everything that I've said is true, you will burn up karma by engaging in your vices. And usually these vices stop when you're sick of them, or notice that it doesn't give you anything anymore. Like when you see clearly that a vice is hurting you more than giving you pleasure, it becomes easy to stop because you just notice with awareness that it's pointless. But the ego also loves this concept of burning karma. It can use it to destroy your life. I'm burning off my karma, while in the meantime, your entire life is falling apart by just self-destructing yourself in the name of burning off your karma. That's not ideal. Because the idea of having to overcome your vices, or transcend hedonism, or overcome your mental blockages, this idea usually is the narrative that is keeping you stuck. It's the tension that will motivate you towards hedonism, because now you're fighting yourself. You're fighting your authentic desires. Because as long as you have the idea of being stuck in a vice, you can always tell yourself that you are not good enough. Like the ideal version of me is one that wouldn't ever engage in this vice. And I'm only lovable as long as I don't engage in this vice. So you're now making your self-acceptance dependent on this action. And then there's this fight and this self-sabotage that makes you enact in this vice. So you can say, okay, I'm not lovable, or I cannot accept myself. So you go deeper into the vice to distract yourself from the fact that you can love yourself. So then whenever you engage in hedonism, you have this narrative of being bad going on, or deserving bad things coming to you. This hedonistic indulgence is a form of spirituality that is just awesome for the ego, because no matter what you do, you can always have a narrative about your identity at the back of your mind, because the ego needs these vices to stay alive. You can't dissolve into infinite present awareness or just authentic self-expression when you're always needing some other state to fulfill you. The magic of being present and peaceful gets destroyed by the lust for a different experience or a different future. The ego is always concerned with what is going to happen to it in the future. It lives in the thought of what comes next and distracts from the present. But your life can legitimately be perfect, and you can love yourself even while you have a bad vice. And through that process of self-acceptance, not needing to change anything about yourself. And then, ironically enough, change becomes a lot easier. Whatever idea of perfection you have that you need to achieve to feel fulfilled will always imply that right now you're not good enough, and you have therefore reasons to not be present or aware of your actual experience. But when you are good enough now and there's no place to run towards or run away from, then of course you can enjoy whatever you want, because it does not come from a place of separation or need. It comes from a place of curiosity and interest and exploration or growth or learning. And there are real psychological needs that everybody has too, that are true to different degrees. And you cannot just deprave yourself of them and assume it will not kind of spill out somewhere else. Like very typical or universal psychological needs are the need for competitiveness and achievement, which for a lot of guys then gets translated into video game addiction. There's a need for intellectual stimulation, like to just flex parts of your brain you normally don't get to. And this can be watching YouTube videos, it can be just self-help videos, and to a certain sense it can also be drug consumption, because they might stimulate it. And this also happens with creativity, right? Creativity is also need. You want to express yourself in a certain way. Then there are social and community needs, and this often gets fulfilled for people with parties or dinners. And then there's another very important need that is escape or adventure, like binging a show on Netflix or, again, tripping. So these needs are very fundamental in each person, and everybody has them to different degrees. And if you have a destructive vice, then you can ask yourself, what is the need that is trying to feel fulfilled through this vice? In what other way could you fulfill this need? To completely get rid of vices, you need to replace it with something else that makes it hard for your mind to go back to the vice. So essentially, the difference between burning of karma and your authentic expression is just how aware are you about your vices and what needs they want to fulfill, and can you live them without self-judgment or a narrative of not being good enough. And from an even deeper layer, you might actually say that the difference between burning karma and authentic expression doesn't even exist, because your body will go through the motions of what its soul desires, esoterically speaking, which is paradoxical. But even though there's an egoic craving or self-destructive behavior, even in that there's an authentic expression happening there. It's what you are in that moment wanting to do, and what in that moment you need to be, even if it's a painful experience, and even if it is some self-destructive addiction. And through this, you can actually realize the predicament or the state you're in. And the more you become aware of that, the more you accept yourself in that, the easier it will be to move on from whatever vice you have, because you're not fighting yourself anymore. On a deep level, real authentic expression, the one that goes beyond the ego narratives and beyond the need for validation and self-love, you can recognize by noticing the experience and how you enjoy them, how there's genuine curiosity in them. And then if there's genuine curiosity in them and you don't really feel like you're escaping from anything in particular, then it really doesn't matter what you do. You can just enjoy yourself. There are no rules. That's the beauty of life. As long as you don't hurt anybody else, there's not really anybody who tells you how to live your life. Only the narratives in your head and the imagined judgments from other people. If you genuinely like something, you do it beyond just a quick hedonistic impulse. You feel maybe even nothing towards the thing that you're doing, but you feel compelled to do it anyway. This is the case for me often when I start recording videos, more often than not. I just start writing a script as some sort of empty impulse, and sometimes it's enjoyable and sometimes it just needs to be done. There's also a difference between pleasure and enjoyment that is important to understand, because enjoyment is process focused, like you focus on the entire process of what you're doing, and pleasure or hedonism is outcome focused. You're just obsessed about how it feels like, as some sort of, you do the thing to get the feeling afterwards, and you focus on this result. And enjoyment is a progress towards a long-term goal more often than not. And pleasure is just achieving a quick goal without effort. The hedonistic mind basically uses pleasure to distract from the future or from the past. And it does so by being more present. But since it is attached to the moment of pleasure, it then kind of starts to be like locked in time to this moment of pleasure. So then once the pleasure is gone, you are obsessed about the past or obsessed about the future again. So it helps you to focus your mind into the present moment, because pleasure just feels nice in the present moment. But the moment it's gone, you then obsess about it. So you're not actually present for most of the time. You're only then present when you have the pleasure that you always want. And this is how this hedonistic seeking will always keep you stuck, because you cannot cling to any moments. The act of clinging is what causes you suffering. So when you enjoy something, but already feel the fear it will be over soon, then it's not pleasurable. You have sort of suffering in the pleasure itself already hidden if you are really aware about it. It's focus in the present moment that is pleasurable, and this focus you can access even without any pleasure at all. Your ego is painful when it is constricting all the time, needing to be in some certain state. And that's what it really does. It tries to control your experience instead of just witnessing it with some sort of objective truth. That's why also orgasms are called la petite mort in French, which means the little death, because the mind is completely focused in the present moment for a short while and then dies basically through that pleasure in the moment. It's what focus does. You lose yourself in the experience. The beauty about authentic expression and spirituality is that once you actually dissolve this sense of self, the duality between pleasure and pain stops mattering or matters a lot less. Of course, pleasure is something I want and pain is something I want to avoid. But suffering comes from both sides. Needing to have some orgasmic release is also suffering, and needing to be free from all vices to fulfill this perfect fantasy of yours is also suffering. So pleasure brings the attention to the experience, which is why meditation is such an important practice. It senses sensations without discriminating between them. That's why it's the way to full acceptance and heightened awareness and even enlightenment. Now, you don't ignore one experience for another or need to be somewhere else, but all experiences can be seen as pleasurable. And here it gets a bit crazy, but I've experienced meditative states where all sensations are seen as pleasurable, intensely so, where you focus on the sensation of touch or wind across your skin, and then it becomes awe-inspiring. And I don't mean some sort of hyper-focused, formal meditative state. Like I just finished having dinner, and then I stared into the room like blankly, and my mind just goes empty. And I don't have thoughts, or I have very, very little thoughts. And then suddenly I get into this dissolution state where all sensations become very pleasant, and it becomes slightly trippy or even emotional. Because all sensations have a certain magic to them. There's nothing that you sense that if you don't focus on it, it becomes kind of wonderful. It's what children sense when they're young and they don't have all of these egoic mechanisms. It's just everything is full of wonder and awe if you pay attention to it and dissolve all of these egoic structures that surround it. They kind of blind you to the bliss that is found. And this is where also this narrative comes from, that reality is made out of love and reality is made out of pleasure and beauty and all of this stuff. Because when you dissolve into reality, which you also sense when you take psychedelics, for example, then there is this natural feeling of, wait, this feels natural. Like pleasure feels like the natural state of things. Just wondering about the sensations or the diversity of sensations that you are connected to all the time. And then notice how small details in your experience are kind of wonderful, will unlock pleasure in all experiences. You can even interact with curiosity towards pain, like physical pain. When you pay attention to that pain, even if it's physical, you change your relationship to it because you're not fighting it or having to be somewhere else. Everywhere you look, you can find a piece of heaven. It is incredible that any sensation exists at all. And it is wonderful that we're able to experience such a cosmic sea of pleasures. If you enjoyed this, then I strongly recommend you watch this video next.